Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about something that I have observed in my years as a lifter and in my years as a coach. A lot of this comes from my study of the conjugate method, all the things they did at Westside, and just looking at the way different coaches have done stuff over the years. I have come to the conclusion that one of the single most effective training methods that a person can do, and again, this is barring their individual recovery, right? Because you have to be able to recover from this, of course. But that is to come in and do a heavy single, and it doesn't have to be a single. It could be any sort of max effort, a training max. It could be a 1 rep max. It could be a heavy double, a heavy triple, right? Doing max effort work followed by hypertrophy volume for the same muscle groups. And I guys want you to note what I'm doing in this video. I'm doing it with a bench press and then rep work on a bench press. But then you see me doing a deadlift and then glute ham raises. So just demonstrating that it does not have to be on the same exercise. And in many cases, you have to be careful of the same exercise because you may not always be able to recover from it. Okay, and that can be problematic, especially stuff like deadlifts and squats. But the idea could be the same. Does it have to be a deadlift or a squat? Could you do a belt squat or a leg press or a split squat after a back squat max? I think you can. Does it even have to be a back squat? No, it could be a box squat, be a safety bar squat. Okay. Depending on how specific you want to be, whether you want to rotate maxes conjugate style or you're wanting to stick with some classic lift, the idea here is the same. You want to take a big, heavy movement that you can train in the 1 to 3 rep range, one that you're comfortable even hitting maxes on, ramping up to a heavy single or a really, really heavy set. And by heavy, I'm talking 90% of your max or heavier. 90% or heavier. Now, if you're going to do a heavy triple, maybe a hair under 90. That could be permissible. All right, what do we get from this? Well, we maximize intramuscular coordination. We maximize the skill of moving a big weight. We train our neural drive, our nervous system. We do all these things. This is also going to subsequently bias the rest of our training for that session towards more myofibular type growth. And I understand that is a controversial topic. There are experts on both sides as to whether that occurs at different rates or not. But true contractile tissue protein, because that is created by mechanical tension. All right, so you're going to get all these benefits from it. It's going to make you better at maxing. It's going to make you stronger. It's going to hit the highest possible muscle fibers early in the rep and fatigue them. Because that's the idea. If it's close to a 1 rep max, or close to a 3 rep max or whatever you're doing, if it's real close, you are fatiguing all the available muscle fibers. You're doing it on a big exercise. It's involving a lot of different muscles. So you're getting all of that. And then we get kind of that pre-activation. Because when you go look at the studies on this, what do they find? That a heavy single, that if you, even on the same exercise, and it's great we have those studies on the same exercise, they find that the performance improves. A lot of people are like, well, if you do a really heavy lift, you're going to be weaker. No, because they're thinking of something like 5-3-1 where you're doing an ham rep type set. No, that will fatigue you. That'll make subsequent work really difficult. When you keep the reps really low or closer to 1, what happens? You don't want to grind a double or a triple, but you can get away with grinding a single to some extent. Well, what they find is you perform slightly better. Your 10 rep sets following that versus if you had just done them with a minor warm-up, people tend to be a little bit stronger. Well, what does that mean? That means that they're performing better. They're getting more out of the set. They're getting more training stimulus, more performance out of that one set. So it primes you for the subsequent work. That means it's going to be easier for you to get that hypertrophy from it. And you're going into it with the highest threshold muscle fibers, those really fast twitch fibers, already slightly fatigued by the time you get to those 10s or 12s or whatever you're doing. 8s. They're already fatigued. and you're going into them in that situation where they're also primed to work. Right? This is very, very efficient. It lets you get more out of each subsequent high rep set. Right? This means that we can beat ourselves up less. We can do less total volume, get the same amount of stimulus from it. We're also getting all those benefits of the really heavy work, the improvements to our maxes, our improvements in our rate of force production, our neural drive. Okay, if you're an athlete of any type, whether you're a strength athlete or otherwise, that's worth a lot. Okay, but even then, let's talk about even from a hypertrophy perspective. It's very efficient. It doesn't reduce the performance on the subsequent sets. It enhances it. That's what the research shows. That pre-activation, well, it's going to let us grow really easily. It's going to let us grow easily. You know, the only downside to this system is, of course, what? We've got to recover from it. There's a recovery component to that really heavy set. But if you don't take too many of them to all-out grinders, you focus on good form, good technique, even if they do get real heavy, they won't beat you up as much. What about if you don't come in and just train yourself into the ground? What if you just get some quality work afterwards and then go home? Because if we look at the other point there, if we get a little more out of the subsequent sets, we don't need as much total work anyways. We're going to get really good hypertrophy. And I've found this to be true both in myself and a lot of my clients. The volumes can get almost borderline too low. Yet I have watched lifters of mine fall below that threshold, with that 10 to 20 optimal set threshold. I've seen with training like this being able to take them down to under 10. Sometimes where they're only doing 6 or 8, maybe 10, sometimes for some of the muscles, of quality sets in the week beyond those training maxes. And yet they get bigger and stronger. They grow. I've watched it happen. Okay, it seems to move the bar a little bit. Maybe not universally, but for a lot of my lifters, I've seen this occur. Right? And their workouts end up being a lot faster. They get done quicker, and they just keep getting bigger and stronger. All right, the trick to making this work is picking those maxes carefully, being efficient with the work that's afterwards, and saying, I'm not going to come in and try to do 25 sets afterwards every time. Now, I've done that and it works, but it starts beating you up. The key is the recovery end. And if you can get the recovery dialed in, you'd be surprised how quickly you accumulate just thickness, strength, everything else when using a system like this. Again, fatigue management is the key, though. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.